Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Uncovering the Underground Radio podcast show, brought to you by my companies Brutal Business Entertainment and Celestial Oddities Radio. As always, I'm your host, Reverend Frater Crow, and I want to thank you for listening in tonight. Whether listening live, streaming after the fact, or you've downloaded it to your device for on the go, I want to thank you for your patronage and support. It certainly is appreciated. Make sure you click the like, share, and follow button on whatever platform you might be listening to us from iTunes to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Deezer, Spreaker, CastBox, Google Podcasts, or Amazon Podcasts. We air across absolutely everywhere, so listen where you feel comfortable. Well, by clicking those buttons, it moves us up the podcast community rankings, allows more people to discover the show. It gives you unfiltered access to our past archives and keeps you in the loop with new episodes as they air. And we certainly have something for everyone that's a fan of underground entertainment, from music to modeling to stars of the big screen, from comedy and oddities and everything in between. So we air to you every single week, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, interviewing great up-and-coming artists and, finding out who they are, having some fun conversations with them. And if they're a music artist like tonight's guest, we air a little bit of their music and let you, sample what it is that they do. Now, I did want to give a quick, recap of the last couple weeks. I apologize for anyone who's a fan of the show. As you know, we returned with Season 2, was very excited to get it kicked off, had 2 back-to-back shows, and then 2 back-to-back reschedules. And the reason that was, unfortunately, was that my immediate family had come down with COVID. Myself, my wife, and my children were pretty sick, so we canceled the 1 week, and then we had 2 back-to-back family deaths, within the last 2 weeks, which, caused us to have to cancel last week. So I do apologize for missing those episodes, but we are back. Those guests will be rescheduled. So this evening's guest, which is WoR, which we'll talk about in just a moment, was actually a guest last season. And if you look back through the playlist, it's kind of funny because they would look like they were just on about 5 episodes ago. But that 5 episodes ago was about 2 years ago. And they were the season finale of Season 1 and actually supposed to be the finale of the show altogether. I actually was planning on ending this show, as I talked about in the past, whenever I launched my other radio show, Knights of the Nephilim. And it allowed itself to be able to kind of bring this back, have that and my other show, Celestial Oddities, all together. So we're very excited to be back with it. Very excited to be bringing these guys back. They were supposed to be the 5th guest this season, but they are ending up being the 3rd. So a big gap between the episodes, but it won't look like it if you're just looking at the listings. We are very excited. These guys are a badass metal band, and not only that, but since we've last spoken to them until now, so much has happened, and we certainly feel excited to be able to pick their brains this evening and bring you a lot of that. So make sure you click the like, share, and follow button. Spread this around. As I said, if you're listening out there and you want to engage with the show, not only listen, but actually ask our guest questions, leave comments and, feedback, you can go to Spreaker.com or through the Spreaker app on the app market. That's Spreaker. That'll allow you to not only listen to the show, but it'll also allow you to type through the instant messenger feature comments during the show that I will read off to you. And, you feel free to do so. We'd love to read off and have you guys engaged. If you have any suggestions for the show, things you want to see us do differently, guests you want to see us have come up on the show, make sure you drop us an email at celestialoddities@gmail.com. Again, that's celestialoddities@gmail.com. Now, to recap the season so far, Episode 1, we had Jeremy Lee Pauley. He is an anthropodermic bibliopagist, which is someone who specializes in the rare art of binding books in human flesh. He is the world's leading specialist in that field. He is a human wet specimen restoration specialist. He is an oddities collector and one of the leading oddities, individuals on the planet. So, very interesting individual. It was fun to get to pick his brain and speak with him. Our second guest was the horrorcore queen herself, Miss Razakel. And then this evening, we're mixing it up on you and blasting you in the face with some high-tempo, badass, just awesome riffs in metal. And as I said, we've had this band on the show before, so let me give you a little bit of background of who they are, and we're going to go ahead and bring them on. So I'll read you their bio. WoR is a groove metal band from Raleigh, North Carolina, consisting of vocalist Bobby Demoss, guitarist Ben Kaiser and David Nisoff, bassist Phillip Funderburk, and drummer Dylan Jenkins. WoR was founded in 2018 by guitarist Ben Kaiser, who at the time was finishing his college football career playing offensive line at North Carolina State. WoR's music combines aggressive riffs, harmonic leads, and tasteful breakdowns with infectious anti-authoritarian lyrics. Demoss's unique screaming style combined with the aggressive guitar work and a dynamic rhythm section shapes WoR's definitive sound. By the spring of 2019, WoR had begun to debut their music at live shows throughout the southeast region of the United States, playing with the likes of Upon a Burning Body, Attila, and Warbringer, just to name a few. In August of 2020, WoR released their debut album Prisoners via Bungalow Records and Universal Music Group. In 2021 and 2022, WoR has extensive tour dates scheduled to support Prisoners, in addition to writing and recording their second album. And folks, I am very excited to bring them back on tonight. Pull up a chair, make a bag of popcorn, crack a beer, and let's dig together as we uncover the underground with WoR. How you guys doing tonight?
What's going on, man?
Certainly nice to have you gentlemen back with me. Like I said, kind of funny when you look through the listings and you're like, wait a second, weren't they on like 4 episodes ago? But, you know, as I said, a major chunk of time has passed from then till now, so it's certainly glad to have you guys back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Well, certainly. So let's jump right into it. I mean, the last 2 years since we last had you guys on the show till now, it's been, you know, not only is always there a lot happens in a 2-year span, but this last 2 years has been incredibly unique with COVID, with things going on around the world, with a whole new way of having to, you know, write music, to do band practice, to be able to go out and play shows. Everything has become different the last 2 years. So I'm going to start out actually with you, Bobby. I mean, how has things been for you guys over the last 2 years? You were fundamentally kind of a newer band since 2018. You know, only have a few years in, and within the first couple of years, boom, the world shuts down. How have you guys been handling that?
I mean, you know, we did exactly what everybody else has been doing. You know, I had to buckle down to make sure that we followed all the guidelines, make sure everybody was safe. We had a little bit of a lineup change. We welcomed Dylan into the band. We had David into the band right before everything shut down. We had all these opportunities that was about to happen, and everything shut down, which was a little bit discouraging because we had a lot of tour dates set up. And then we also had a lot of, you know, things going on for us. And then, boom, that happened. So what we ended up doing was we just, you know, refined our craft, make sure that we're trying to work on everything that we can. Once we got Dylan into the band, you know, he brought new life into all the material that we had with Prisoners. And after that, you know, it was such a good response that, you know, we jumped right in to try to work into our second album.
And that's awesome, because when I talked to you guys last, it was prior to the album being released, and I have followed the album since its release, and it's phenomenal. I mean, honestly, it's a great, just in-your-face, badass album. And I already knew it was going to be from the material I heard from you guys prior to its release, but when you released it, I knew that shortly afterwards, a lot of pieces would start falling into place, even despite everything that's been going on in the world. And we're certainly going to pick up some of those pieces tonight, like recent show announcements and other things you guys have put up. I mean, it's all falling into place. And, if, you know, once things eventually, I say eventually, start to fall back to more of a normal world, I can see some major, major moves happening for you guys.
Oh yes. We have a lot of stuff going on. You know, had a couple of announcements that we already put out there now. We're just excited to be able to go back out there, be able to perform in front of a lot of people, get all the support that we've been getting, and actually gain that following.
No, absolutely. And I think it's going to work well, especially with a couple of the bigger shows you guys got coming up. I think that that's one of those make or break moments. And as long as you guys, you know, I hate to say that, as long as you guys go out and perform, you know, properly, as I know you will, that's going to take you guys from being an opener on some of these large, you know, tour dates, where I seen one recently, folks. You know, we'll just jump right into it. I was going to save it for later on, but fuck it. We're just going to jump into the fact that you guys were announced for the incarceration, show coming up in July in Ohio at the penitentiary. That is 3 days, folks, if you're listening out there. Listen to some of these names on this lineup that WoR is going to be, playing aside. We got Korn, Papa Roach, 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamins, Evanescence, Falling in Reverse, Disturbed, Lamb of God. We have Seether, we have Black Label Society and Theory of a Dead Man. We have Code Orange, we have I Prevail and Sleeping with Sirens. I mean, that's just to name a few of the great bands. There's about 30 more that I'm not even naming right now. That is a phenomenal lineup and an important show because, as I said, one of the smaller names on the bill, but by means can certainly carry your weight. You perform properly at that show, and that changes everything for you guys.
Oh, yeah, regardless, even with the stacked up lineup and how everything is, we're going to come in there, we're going to do what we do with every, with the recent tours and the past shows that we've had. We're getting great responses with the crowd, great responses with everybody. We just like to go out there, have a good time, fuck shit up, and we just like to, go out there and be us. So I think that with that, we get a lot of good engagement just from being ourselves.
That's all you can be. Just be natural. Don't be anything outside of who you guys already are, and it's going to resonate with the right people, and that's all that matters. And, I mean, speaking of which, I would like to ask a question to Dylan. I mean, how has it been for you, brother? I mean, kind of jumping in new to the band, being one of the newer members, and seeing everything falling into place already so quickly for you, with your newness to the band?
Well, I mean, it's awesome. It's I'm not going to say it's something where it's I really feel like it was like an overnight thing or anything. I mean, we're still working hard to make all of this happen. And, I mean, I've been doing it for quite a while now, just playing drums. And so just the fact that all of this is all coming together, I mean, it's great, but I'm, still just got to keep pushing forward. We're not quite where we want to be yet, so we're just going to just got to keep hammering it. And yeah, but I mean, all in all, it's been awesome, because we played Blue Ridge, being able to see Lamb of God, just right there. That was kind of one of those moments where I was just oh crap, because that was my third show, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the third show. So, being able to have that happen, that was pretty wild, and it was pretty surreal. But we're not done, and we got a long way to go. So
you can't beat that. I mean, to know it's your third show and you're looking over and there's Lamb of God there, you're like, all right, well, something must be going right. You're certainly not going in the wrong direction if you see Lamb of God at your third show with a band. So, no, that's pretty awesome. And I look forward to you guys playing, obviously, that upcoming festival. I think that's going to be huge because of a lot of reasons, not only just in general being on the bill and playing along such great bands, but it's one of those needed shows after the shit of the last 2 years. I mean, festivals haven't really been happening, even though COVID is still here, it's still present, and there's things happening. Last year there wasn't really much festivals, and if there was, it wasn't well attended. I would see this show being very well attended, and I would see it just being a fantastic weekend for everybody to really go out, enjoy some music together, enjoy the thing that we all love, which is just getting together, listening to music, playing music, drinking some beer, and just having fun, meeting people and having a good time. And it hasn't really happened the last couple years the way we would like it to. So it's going to be a healing, is what I would like to say, for everyone. For you guys playing on stage and looking out and even enjoying the show afterwards. For everyone just being there in attendance, it's going to be a 3-day healing expedition for everyone to just kind of try to get past what the hell we've went through these last 2 years.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. We can't wait. We can't wait. We just love, the energy, the vibe, being around everybody, having a good time. Everybody's enjoying it. Us enjoying our time, and just, everybody just being together. We trust us. We sick of this, whole COVID shit too, man. And if I could say one thing, it'll definitely be fuck COVID, dude.
I can't wait, man. I love watching, the thing is, I I love playing music. I always have, and I love performing, but I love watching, you know, bands that I'm friends with or that I've interviewed and I talk to. I love watching the progression. There's nothing better to me as a radio host or just an individual to see someone, you fast forward a couple years later and you see them doing big things a few years later, even bigger, and you're like, wow, that's awesome. I love to see that growth. I love to see the stepping stones that take someone to where they want to be. And like I said, I've already seen so much happen over the last 2 years for you guys. And I can't wait to fast forward another 2 years. So I'm really excited for that. You know, much love to you guys. What I want to do here, before we dive too much into the interview, when folks are listening into the show, maybe they already know who you are and they love your music and they're certainly going to enjoy a song. But for the folks that maybe don't know who you are and they're listening in this evening, I want to blast them in the face with something. So we have 3 different choices here. We have Caged, we have Sirens, and we have hiatus. Which of the 3 would you guys like to have played first?
Let's go with slow burn, baby. Let's go with slow burn. Let's start off with hiatus.
All right, folks. We're going to jump into a song here on Uncovering the Underground, and we'll
Ben says, what you want, Ben? What you want?
Dylan's been trying to get Sirens heard, you know, so y'all been trying to get Sirens heard.
But I like Bobby's idea with the slow burn.
Start him with the slow burn, you know, ease him into that.
All right, we're going with majority rules here, folks. We're going with the slow burn. We got hiatus. We're going to throw that on for you. We are with WoR right now, and we'll be right back after their song hiatus here on Uncovering the Underground.
I say
folks, and we are back on Uncovering the Underground, and that was High Wraith by North Carolina metal band WoR. We've been hanging out with them for the last, about 20-some minutes now. We've talked a little bit about some upcoming huge shows that they're going to be on, what's happened with them since the last time we had them on the show last season, which was actually a couple years ago, and glad to have them back picking their brains. We've talked to a new member. We've done a few different things, so if you missed out, don't fret. You can always jump back and listen from the beginning once this ends. If you're tuning in right now, obviously you have to listen to the live portion, so stick with us. But once this ends, you can go back and stream it. You can download it. You can do whatever you like with it, and I suggest you do it. So make sure you stick around. We have a few more songs this evening and certainly a lot more conversation. And we are glad to be hanging out with these guys. That was High Wraith. That was their slower of the 3 songs tonight, and it was still in your face and pretty, like a horse drop kicking you in the back of the head, which I always like. So, guys, kudos on the song. I like I said, everything that I've heard from, this past album and anything you guys have really put out in general has been top quality, and it's my type of metal. Now, I can say that sometimes I have metal bands on and talk to them and I like their music, but it's not really what I would personally be jamming myself. It's just good music. You guys are the type of music that I personally listen to. So it's something that I relate to. It's something that I would have in my car and do often have in my car as I'm driving around jamming, and it's nice. And I think a lot of people are in that boat with you. That's why I think, as things progress coming up, I think it's just going to sweep across the nation as you guys tour. I think town after town that you do play is really going to be receptive to that. So much love on that track. Why don't we jump to, I want to take a different perspective here. We're going to go with Phil. We're going to go with the bass perspective here, Phil. What is your feelings on High Wraith? How did this song come together? And, give us a little bit of input from your perspective.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so High Wraith, it starts off very slow, and it kind of builds in like this crescendo. And honestly, when Dylan came into the band, he added a layer to that song that made it kind of pop, because it is a slower song. So while it's not as fast, the detailed drumming is what I think really helps bring that song to life, and that recording that you played. And we like to play that song earlier in the set just to kind of get people connected with us. And then at the end of the song, there's a little bit of a breakdown, and we kind of throw down a little bit. So, it's like we get people watching us, so we don't try to scare them off too early with the really heavy stuff. And then right after that, we just shove it in their face and get the crowd split open. So it's a really cool song just to throw in there, kind of change things up, and then just blow it up after that.
I like that, though. You ease them in. You don't want to scare them off. You ease them in and then directly punch them in the face as soon as you're done with the song. It's a good way of going about it.
Yep. Make them feel safe, and then bam.
I like it. I dig it for sure. So, no, awesome. And Ben, we haven't had a chance to really speak fully with you yet. So obviously you wanted to kick in with Sirens, which we'll go ahead and jump into next to hear in a little bit. But what's your perspective on how things have been? Obviously, you and I have spoken, the most in the group. We've chatted many times across Messenger. Since that last time we've spoken to one another till now, how's things really been for you? Not only personally, but from a band perspective, but as a whole. I mean, can you give us a little bit of a crescendo of the last 2 years?
I mean, it's like any other. I mean, aside from the pandemic, it's pretty much like any other year. It's there. You're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs. So we've been very productive though. We've tried to really stay focused, and even though some things have been taken away from us, we can't play as many shows or as freely as we would like to. We've been working. We've been putting a lot of time into this second album, which is, I think if you guys like this first album, this second album is going to blow you away. I think, not to sound like, a cocky, arrogant asshole, but it is. The stuff is real good. It's real good. So, we've been just focusing inwards on ourselves, as opposed to really, just working on how we can get better, working on, writing better songs, becoming better musicians, and just, staying focused on the overall goal of where we're trying to go. Sometimes when we're on a shitty tour or whatever, it's just part of it. It's part of the growth process, and I wouldn't really want it any other way. So.
Now, has it changed at all as far as how you guys have been practicing? Has that really changed the dynamic, or has everything maintained itself pretty much over the last couple of years steadily?
Well, so when Dylan joined the band, Dylan lives 4 hours away. So it does kind of make it like we don't practice how we used to practice, where we used to have like set, we'd practice like several days a week. But when Dylan does come to town, it's like we really, like for like 5 days, we really just put our heads down and we get in and pretty much only practice. We get a month's worth of practice in a weekend. You know what I mean? So this past weekend we got in and worked on 4 new songs that are coming along nicely. I wish we could share it with you guys, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, so, we're just very like, when it's time to practice, we're very focused and really paying attention to detail and, just really hammering out these tracks. And then, we'll take a week or 2 off and focus more on writing stuff by ourselves. And then we'll kind of reconvene and put more ideas together at a later date. So.
No, that's awesome though. I mean, it changes up not only the band perspective, but it changes up who you each have to be individually as an artist, because when you have the opportunity to be able to jam 3-4 times a week as a whole, you don't have to be as precise personally as you do the way you guys do it. And what I mean by that is, if you're rough on a part, that's okay, because with your brothers and your jamming, you might be able to get away with not being as tight. But whenever you're only getting a few days at a time here and there, and you really have to get to work and hammer it out, that means you have to make sure that when you get those days and when you go there, your shit is down. So that means in that time in between, you're being extremely, hard on yourself to get there and disciplined. And that's important. I think I like that. I am a firm believer that self-discipline is everything. And, I love the fact that that's the way you guys do it. I actually prefer that than you guys jamming all week long. I think that can make a band tighter, only having a few days at a time, because you take it more seriously when you have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely made, when we do get together, it's like everybody knows we've got to get work done, whereas in the past it was like, we're going to see each other on Wednesday again, so we'll just fuck around today, which is, that's fun too, but
it is.
But yeah.
Well, that's something that we've even talked about was, moving forward after we finished some of the bigger shows in the tour, and we were discussing, all right, how are we going to move forward with this album? And, just like me being 4 hours away, we all came to the conclusion that it's like, all right, we're going to just send each other tracks. We've got our recording devices, and we're going to do what we got to do to just, once we get the tracks, we'll start listening to them, we'll write, we'll send them back. But like what you were saying, we did make the very clear decision where it's like, when we are together for these 4 or 5 days, that's not time to practice. That's time to essentially show what you've been practicing. So it definitely came together, this past week. I mean, like Ben was saying, we got 4 songs. We got 3 pretty much done. We got another one, 50% or so. And yeah, but that's pretty much.
Feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good. I see the smile on your guys' faces. Folks, if you're listening out there, you don't get to see these gentlemen's lovely faces. I do. And I'm seeing the happiness in their faces. They're talking about the new music coming out. And I love that, because there's nothing better than seeing an artist glow whenever they talk about something that you haven't seen from them, that they know they're going to drop on you, and you just see how happy they are. So I believe every word that they're saying as far as this new album is just going to be amazing. So make sure when it comes out, you guys and gals out there, all pick up a copy of it. And if you haven't picked up the past album, Prisoners, please go out and do so. You will love it. Share it with your friends. Take it and make your grandma listen to it. Have fun with it, because it's a fun album. But, no, I love that, man. I love the fact that you guys have taken it this way. In fact, I think that, Dylan, you should move even 2 hours further. Really buckle in that fucking time.
My gas money there.
No, I'm just playing with you, but no, that is great, man. I'm glad that you guys have figured that out. It is interesting because we do live in a time where with the advancements in recording equipment and being able to send samples to one another, it's much different than 30 years ago when that really wasn't a possibility easily, where, you know, the quality tracks you would get at home were rough. You couldn't really do it. That's an advantage. I come across bands now that that's really how they practice, is they simply send files to one another, and kind of like you guys, they get together every now and then, but it might even be more scarce than you guys are getting together, but they hammer it out when they get together. It's almost like they've been practicing together distantly, each doing their own individual part. And I love the fact that that's a capability now that people can take advantage of, because can you imagine 20, 30 years ago being 4 hours apart and you don't get to send files to each other at all, and you literally only get those 4 days and you haven't heard shit that the other 4 have been doing? I mean, it would really hinder you, whereas now you kind of can go and know what they've done, at least to somewhat of an extent, which is important.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, you know, technology for sure. You know, it provides us with some advantages that we wouldn't have otherwise, but it also, you know, it can be detrimental as well, you know. So we do try to really focus on, when we are together, really getting that chemistry down, because, you know, we are a live band. I like to think so, you know, and also like being on tour, like the fact that we toured and we played every single night for a month, you know, that doesn't hurt as far as getting tighter either. I know that, like, towards the end of that last tour that we were on, I mean, I haven't heard us tighter. Like, we could have probably played the set without hearing ourselves. Like, there were some venues where the sound system was just god awful, like, just, and so we had to play the show like just by memory, like where our finger placements were, if we can hear Dylan's kick or the snare, you know, that was our tempo. And I mean, that's a true story. So we've had to play some shows where it's like we can't hear ourselves, we can't really hear each other, like. We're well rehearsed, so, you know, we're able to pull it off. But so yeah, I mean, it does part of it as well. So
that's important to be that tight, because I know exactly what you're speaking of when you go and play a venue and you cannot hear anybody else on stage, and if you don't have your timing in your head down pat, you're going to bomb that show. But if you guys are good and tight enough that you know what each other's doing without really needing to hear it, you can still put on a great show. And I mean, I've done that myself in bands over the years, and we'd get off stage and people would be like, "You guys killed it tonight." I'm like, "Well, I'm glad you think so, because I didn't hear a fucking thing the entire time."
That's exactly what we said afterwards.
And that is, I mean, you get off stage, or you know, you get dicked by the sound man. Sometimes it's not that the venue has bad sound. Sometimes you just come across some real piece of shit sound engineers. And there's been times where, playing in the past, we would say to the sound man, "Can you please turn my other guitarist up a little bit in my monitors? Can you turn the bass slightly down and turn the kick up a little bit?" "I got you, man." And then you play the next riff and nothing changed, and you're like, "You didn't do anything." Well, yeah. And then you ask them again, and they don't do it again, and you're like, "All right, asshole." But then the next band comes on, might be someone like Devil Driver or Lamb of God, someone like that, and they sound flawless, and you're like, they just didn't give a shit about us playing. They only wanted to get us off stage so the bigger band could come. And that happened when we played with bands like that. You know, they wouldn't do anything with the soundboard, but then they were putting in time and work when the next band came on. So you have to earn your stripes sometimes in some of the sound engineers in clubs too. And it's kind of bullshit, but it's just part of the process.
Got to bring your own sound, you know.
Yeah, that's what we know.
Yeah, we brought our own sound engineer, our own board. Get the fuck out. We're not even letting you touch it.
Either way, we're gonna go up there and, like, you know, play our hearts out. And yeah, there are shows where we have no idea what just happened. We'll walk off the stage, we're all pissed off and angry because we couldn't hear anything, and, you know, we thought we played terrible. And people come up to us and they're like, "Wow, that sounded great," and we're just like, "What were you watching? Like, how is this possible?" But yeah, I think that time practicing together and playing together is really what makes that happen. So
now I want to jump back to you, Bobby. I mean, you know, in a situation like that, I find I've been both guitarist over the years. I've played a little bit of bass, but by no means am I a bassist. Always been kind of lead guitar and have done vocals. And guitar I can get through. You know, when I can't really hear, I can usually look over at my other guitarist's hands and figure out where he's at in the song if I'm losing myself and stay with it. Vocals, I've been up in front of a crowd before where I couldn't hear a goddamn thing in a band, and that I feel is more of a scary moment. You're center stage, you're in front, everyone's eyes on you, and you don't hear a fucking thing, and you don't know if you're screaming over something that makes sense or you're just screaming. So how have you handled the pressure of that, some of these venues, and how is that for you being the front man?
Oh,
You're muted.
you're muted, Bobby.
Bobby, there you go.
Oh.
Just like everybody else in the band, man, I follow Dylan, man. Wherever he is, wherever he stops, wherever he goes, that's where I'm at. Like, and you'll probably see me at a lot of shows. I go right to the drum kit, like where we at. If I can't hear him, I go right to Dylan because he's my metronome. He's my my key. He lets me know where I'm at, where we at in the songs, even if I can't hear nobody there. And it's like right then and there. Like even when he can't hear nothing, just if he's playing off a click, we know exactly where we at. So yeah, he's my formula.
I think that's important now, the metronome, the timing. Like I said, if you can feel that, if you can get some type of timing, that's all you need. You don't actually have to hear the music. As you said, if you can just even walk back and stick your hand on somewhere on the drum set and just feel the rhythm through your fingers, you can kind of catch where you're supposed to be in the song.
Right.
I would say though, there were some shows, man. There were some shows where, like, all I heard was like the subwoofer frequencies of Dylan's kick drum, and that shit was obnoxious as hell. It was just like, I was like, my God, dude! Like, I can't hear anything except that. Like, so. But if I hear snare and hi-hat, dude, good.
We played a show years back. I don't even know what this place was. It was packed. It was awesome. It was a real shithole venue. I mean, it wasn't like a big club like Mr. Smalls here or like Rex Theater or something where, a lot of famous bands come through. This was a small town, like VFW type show, but wasn't a VFW. Now, what was crazy about this show is there was no windows in the building. There was only one door, and there was a door way in the back, but it was like sectioned off, and the walls were completely covered in bed foam. And it was in the middle of summer, so it was like 109 degrees in this building. And there was no sound. I mean, as you played anything, it was just the whole entire time. We had like a 40-minute set. So it was just 40 minutes of us staring at each other, playing something, but we don't know exactly what. And it was one of those situations, like I mentioned, we walked off that day and all these scene kids were coming out and they're like, you guys are fucking sick. And I'm like, yeah, you like it. That was a dope show, right? We got in the van and we're like, that was the worst show we've ever played in our life. But they loved it, and that's all that matters. If they think they loved it, and fuck, if they're drinking enough beer, they did love it. So it's all that really matters. No, I dig it, guys. So what's obviously, what is next? I know you guys have some big shows coming, but I mean, what is the plan right now? I follow all the bands and individuals I have on the show as close as I can, but I can't keep up with everything. So obviously we mentioned the Incarceration show coming up, which is a 3-day music festival, a lot of great names. But as far as touring and things, what do you guys have coming up or having planned? I know I seen the other day that you were working on something upcoming. I don't know if that's come to fruition yet or it's already heavily in it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, we're working on the album right now. That's our main focus right now, is just getting that written and finished, because we're shooting to be in the studio in a couple months here. I can't really share any details on that yet, but as far as touring, we have Toledo Death Fest. That was announced this past week as well. And then we have Incarceration Festival, and then we're actually announcing another tour tomorrow. So if you missed us by a day there to talk about that, but we've got a tour announcement tomorrow, and then that's about all we got for right now. We've got some more stuff coming in the summer and the fall. We gotta keep y'all on your feet for now, Just keep you guessing a little bit. But
you see how he's doing us, folks. They're saying, one day too short. You're missing out on the big announcement. So if you're listening out there, make sure you tune in tomorrow for some big news. I'll certainly will be myself. So no, that's great. What's you guys' favorite? I mean, I'll ask each of you individually. What is your favorite aspect of being in a band? And when I say that, what I mean by that is everyone has their own favorites. Some people love the live feel. They love being in front of a crowd. Others love just jamming with their bros. There's nothing wrong with that. Other people love studio. and they love creating good music that's on a CD or nowadays digital. We'll do it, Ben, we'll start clockwise. We'll go Ben, Bobby, Phil, and then Dylan. If each of you could kind of say, what is your each individual favorite aspect of not only your guys' band, but just music and performing?
I really I love all of it. I like the creation process as much as I like, but if I had to pick one, it would be playing live for sure. I like sitting in a room by myself playing guitar. I like sitting in a room with the other 4 dudes in this band and jamming. I like being in the studio, but playing live is that gratification that all your hard work is paying off, or not. If you're playing to an empty room, then it's. But so yeah, definitely the live part of it. That's a lot of fun. It's just you can't really, that energy. It's you can't capture that on our. We try to capture that on our records, but that energy is unparalleled. So live, yeah. And
Bobby,
I have to piggyback off of that energy. I don't play no instruments. You know what I'm saying? I'm just right there. I'm in front of people. I see people more than they do. So I feed off energy more than anything. So even if there's like 3 people in the crowd that's fucking with it, I'm rocking out with those 3 people. If there's 100 out there, I'm rocking out with everybody. If there's nobody even there, you know what I'm saying? It's just the bouncer in front, you know what I'm saying? It's like just the promoter there and everything, whatever, as long as they bob in your head, I'm vibing with you. I go strictly off. I love the energy when it comes to this music shit, man. It's just strictly energy. If you give me your energy, I'm rocking out with you. If it's just us there, I'm just feeding off the energy from everybody in my band, and that's it.
Awesome. No, I agree. And Phil?
Yeah, for me, the live portion is the payoff of all the work that we do. But to me, this whole band thing is really just all of us taking our lives and pursuing our dreams and just doing something different. The sacrifices that we're making are just insane. And the fact that just the 5 of us can pull together and start this insane new life, that is what really drives me, just to do something different and, really just sacrifice everything for this. That, to me, that's the best part.
No, I like that because it is a major sacrifice, like I said, and it goes back to what we mentioned earlier, self-discipline, because, anybody can talk about, it can't be that hard to do this or that, but unless you've ever been in a serious band and really put serious time into it, that person's never going to realize how much time and work it takes to be disciplined in yourself, be disciplined as a group, because no matter how much you like your brothers, there's times you want to stab in the fucking throat, and that's just how it goes, especially if you're on tour and you're on the road with them. I loved the fellas in my band. We played together for years, but I would be lying if I said I didn't secretly think about taking each of them out at least once or twice every time we went on the road together. And that's just the way it goes. So you have to push past that. You have to figure out, how can I put myself around these guys and continue to have that brotherhood and camaraderie within us? How can we go in and out night after night and put on a great show and continue to write at a high volume while maintaining girlfriends or wives or children or jobs? It's fucking brutal, and anybody that hasn't done it could never possibly know. So I agree with you. I love the fact of when you can be a well-oiled machine, because it says something as the band, and it says something as each and every one of the individuals in the band. So thank you. Dylan, what about yourself?
I guess maybe more from a musical aspect. Just, it's whenever you've realized that playing whatever instrument that it is that you're playing, that it's the best, as great as you may be at being a mechanic or at cooking or whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's drums are the best thing that I can do. So it's just, that's always my driving force, is just, that's what I love.
You just love the jam. It doesn't matter if it's studio, live, with your brothers. You just love love
really
being behind the
matter.
drums. Yeah.
And if I can add, he's one hell of a goddamn mechanic. He's one hell of a god. So if he say that drums is the shit, he is not lying, dog. Like,
I drove my tools 4 hours and knew exactly what you needed, and I got it done.
He's like, I'm good at a lot of things, but drums is my shit. So don't mess with my drumming.
But I mean, it is, and it's just it's one of those things that, you know, when I come back to my day job, it's you know, it's nice knowing that that's there, but it doesn't, you know, satisfy me the way that playing music does. So, you know, and particularly playing drums. Yeah, that's why I do it. It's just straight up to play drums.
Well, the thing is, man, to be honest with you, and I'll go as far as saying this, and I don't care if anybody agrees or not, if you know, if you have a solid drummer, if you have someone that is a badass drummer who's not completely fucking batshit crazy, because all you drummers are, you know, and you can stay steady and be a part of that band for the life of the band, you're going to have a solid band, because it doesn't matter how good of a guitar player you are, vocalist, and all those things. Those are very important. I have found out through my own experiences over the years, drums are it. And that was the one thing we always had trouble with. We had phenomenal drummers. We always lost phenomenal drummers because they were crazy. And, you know, we would get another one, and as we'd start to really, really make headway and get super tight with them, I mean, the level that you really dream to be at, and then something would happen and we'd have to get a new drummer again. We had different bass players, we had different people, and we could always seem to manage and change quicker with that. But the drums were always the piece. It's the backbone of the band. I mean, it really is. If you have a solid rhythm, if you have a solid percussion, that everything else builds around it. But when you don't have that solid, dependable piece, you're constantly searching for something that isn't there. So as a drummer, I feel that, man. You know, not myself. I'm not a drummer. I fucking couldn't drum. My life depended on it. But
I mean, and like, I mean, we consider ourselves like a groove metal band, and I mean, even in the name, groove is a freaking drum beat. You know what I mean? Like, a groove is a beat, right? So, you know, I mean, in this band especially, like, the drums is the driving force. Everything else is just kind of, you know, on top of that. But without drums, you might as well not be a band. So
exactly. I mean, you could always go up there with acoustics and sit and do some unplugged, you know, but it just doesn't have the feel that the drums do.
I don't really think that we're that band. But, you know, hit me up in like 20 years, and, you know, if we're doing like MTV Unplugged in 20 years, you know. But it's unlikely right now, yeah.
No,
I just want to know, Dylan, are you okay? Are you having a good time right now? You all right? Are you comfortable?
Anything
I just want to make sure he's good with all the dicks going on.
What? What you need?
He's we're sucking up to him too much, folks. We don't want him to get a big head. No, man, that's great that you've obviously found these guys, and these guys have found you, and obviously from what it sounds like, you are a very important, integral part of the band, and I think will be for a long time to come. And they're shaking their heads no. No, but I really think you are, and I think we'll express that in this next track. So what we're going to do now, folks, is we're going to jump to our second break here, and we're going to jump into the track that they were talking about earlier, which is Sirens. So this is North Carolina metal band, groove metal band, WoR, and this is Uncovering the Underground. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Description
right, and we're back on Uncovering the Underground Radio, and that track there was Sirens by the band WoR. We've been hanging out with them roughly almost an hour at this point, talking about a lot of different fun things. If you've missed it, make sure you jump back and check it out. But we still have about a half an hour left of the show to go. Still got another track to play before the end of the evening. If you have any questions that you want to have us ask our guest this evening, you can do so through the Spreaker app or Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker. Just search Uncovering the Underground or Celestial Oddities Radio. Either one will pull the show up, and there's an instant messenger feature on there. You can certainly let us know. We do have a comment that came in a little bit ago. It said excellent with exclamation points. So I'm guessing that must have come in during the song. So absolutely excellent. Once again, another badass track, another, punch you in the face type track. I love it. Drums are very heavily a part of that song, and that fit, and flowed very well with what we were just talking about. Dylan's the newest member of the band. He is the drummer of the band, and we were just talking about the importance of having a good percussionist in a metal band, any band, but really, metal. So, gentlemen, Sirens, whoever would like to jump in with this one, I want to know a little bit more of where the motivation of this song came in. Or actually, before I even get into that, with your guys' writing style, everyone does it a little bit different. You have some bands that try to formulate the music around already written lyrics from the vocalist. You have some bands that write the full song before the vocalist even touches it. You have a mixture of both. Everyone writes differently. How do you guys, and whoever wants to jump in can feel free to do so. So I want to hear how you guys normally write, and then I want to hear what led to writing of that specific track, what the motivation behind the lyrics and the overall feel of it was.
So when we came to write Sirens, and how we even write majority of our songs is, I am initially I used to rap, so I treat it like a beat. So that's why the drums, the bass, is always a key part. And as the guitar, it's the rhythm keeps going, keeps it interesting and everything like that. I write along with the drums and the bass. So when I Sirens, the reason why we called it Sirens, or the reason why I thought Sirens as a title was because of the intro, that guitar sound as is wailing. And then I went lyrically perspective, and then it came in a time of where America was facing a lot of brutality. So I wrote Sirens in a sense of in that perspective. So that's how we normally write our songs, and how I do. I'll let them write what they write as a musician, as with their instrument, and then I'll layer my song on top of that.
Okay, no, that's how I preferred it. I mean, I've been on both sides of the spectrum of writing guitar for a band and then also being a vocalist before, and I mean, I've met bands that say we actually go off of the lyrics and write our music on top of the lyrics. I've never been able to do that. It's been, we would write the songs and the lyricist would add on top of that and kind of blend it. We might change parts because of certain parts of the lyrics, but I've never been able to someone hand me just lyrics and say, here, write a song to this. It just never worked that way for me, but there's other people that swear by it. So you guys kind of write how I always have. And that's, I think, honestly, the smoother of the operations you can go with.
If they ever did, all right, give us some lyrics and we'll write around that, I'll be stuck. I'll be like, okay, I don't know this, because I wouldn't know where to go with it. I might say some outlandish shit and I might not like it. So I'd rather just write on top of what y'all create and make that work. But at the same time, with the style that we do things, I like to touch certain topics that I feel like is relatable to everybody. Touch everybody, no matter where you stand, no matter where you go. You can look at your perspective, and it can hit you a different way, no matter how you're hearing it. So that's why I like to write over what they write, because then I could touch it from a bunch of different like matters, topics, like perspectives and all that.
Now, Bobby, I want to ask you something because of the things you just said. We kind of took alternate paths from one another. You came from being a hip-hop artist into a metal band. I was a metal guitarist for a very, very long time, and after ending my metal career, decided to pick up my other passion in life, which was hip-hop, and for a very long time was a pretty successful hip-hop artist. What is your take seeing the opposite spectrum? Because I knew for me, leaving the metal scene and going into the hip-hop scene, I wasn't sure how I would be perceived, how, would my music come across, would people even accept me as a hip-hop artist. It'd end up being better than my metal career by all means. I mean, it just opened up all kinds of new doors for me. I would imagine you had the similar feelings coming from a hip-hop scene, moving into a metal genre. I mean, what was your feelings originally saying, I'm going to tackle being a frontman of a metal band?
I mean, it does what you just said, vice versa. Like, but at the same time, like, and a lot of my homies say I just went back home because even when I was in high school, I was in a metalcore band and I was like still like exploring myself as a musician. And, I would, cause like a lot of people would say like, I am a lyricist, only because I don't play no instruments, but I like to write. And I like to write, and I like, I'm a product of my environment, and like to like just write what I feel, what I see, what's going on. So even from metal to hip hop, hardcore, no matter what it is, it's delivering a message. And as long as I could deliver that message and it's heard, all that really matters. So when I left that band, well, actually, when I stopped doing music in high school with the metalcore band, I didn't know how to play no instruments, but I linked up with producers and I started rapping. So when I started rapping, all I could rap about is what my, past experiences was. After I started doing that, I started trying to implement my metal experience into my hip hop. And that's when, I guess, WoR found out that, I tried out for WoR, got the part, and then we just got so much love, so many opportunities, so many things started happening that I got like more support, more love, like more, opportunities going on with WoR that I started doing that instead. And I went on a hiatus on my hip hop career. But still, even with that happening, I was still able to do what I wanted to do from the jump, which was portray my lyricism, talk about, stuff that I want to talk about and display my art, my craft. So I'm still able to do that, and I still treat this, even though I'm a metal vocalist, I still treat this like an MC, like I'm still a hip-hop artist. But instead, I got a live band behind me, and I got like 4 other dudes who is still passionate about what they're writing and what I'm writing.
I love that. I mean, because I see myself in that in opposite ways. I mean, you brought a lot of the hip hop into your metal, and I took a lot of the metal into my hip hop. And when people see me, they're like, I think that's what made them accept me. They're like, you have a very dark image, you have very dark beats, you come across very aggressive. And a lot of times I'd come off stage and they're like, you remind me of like a metal like frontman singer. They're like, you come off as not your average hip hop artist. And I'm like, yeah, well, I always came from metal bands. So I love to hear that. That's something you and I can certainly relate with, as we've seen both sides of the spectrum. And, we often will say we don't play an instrument when we talk about ourselves as a frontman or as a hip hop artist, but our instrument is our pen. That is the instrument. We make beautiful music with that writing.
Also,
it does make sure remind me of doing that as well. They remind me that like my voice is an instrument, and I appreciate that because, it is what it is. Like whether it's hip hop, whether it's pop, whether it's punk, no matter like what you're doing, it's the message. As long as you can relay that message and they're receiving it, that's all that really matters.
Well, and then another thing we've kind of implemented, and like to kind of go off of the whole like the voice as an instrument thing, is one thing we've done in the writing process here is actually before we even write lyrics, I'll show Bobby a demo that I've written or something like that, and we'll go into it and we'll be like, don't think about words right now. Just think about like a vocal pattern. You know, like, how do you want to sing this? How do you want to scream over this? Like, if you didn't have to say any words, like, how would you do this? So he kind of gets that down. He just yells some gibberish over some demos, and we try to get, you know, some good, actually use the voice as almost a rhythmic instrument as well, because that's basically every instrument in this band to some degree is rhythmic, right? So once we have like a solid vocal pattern down, then he kind of goes back and explores writing some really deep and, you know, lyrics that can, you know, generally focus around things that people are sensitive about.
Well, and I love that you just said that you can't discredit gibberish. And I love that you guys said that, because I did that. I would often write a vocal pattern that was nonsense. And people would be like, what in the fuck are you doing, man? And I'd be like, shim shabba dabba da bum jada. You know, I would just get something down that would be how I heard in my head that the vocal pattern should go, but had no idea what the words was. And too many people focus on the words and hold themselves from finding the pattern. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Don't be afraid to throw something over top of it that flows but doesn't mean anything. Because as you said, you can use that as a bass track, a bass line to go back off of, and then, you know, craft that into actual lyrics, because too many people stunt themselves from the get-go. Oh, I'm trying to think of the words and the pattern at the same time. You're doing two things at once.
Right. I mean, so, you know, that's one kind of separate those two and like let Bobby kind of see himself as a rhythmic instrument as well, without having to think about the lyrics. And then, because in the past, what we've done, we've written lyrics and we're like, all right, well, how are we going to force these lyrics onto this music? And it's, you know, that works to some degree as well. I just, you know, I think it's more effective like when you're kind of in the moment, you know, and I think creativity kind of comes from a random place, you know what I mean? So like when you're in the moment, you really don't have to think about words or meaning or anything. You're just like, how do you want to express yourself? You know, and then whatever comes out is generally pretty fucking solid. So, you know, sometimes it's garbage, but
well, whenever you hit a certain level, you actually just said something that's very profound. And you know, whether someone's into spirituality or not, creativity comes from a special place, and in fact, it does. Is whenever you can learn to explore different depths of your mind through different trance-like states, you can tap into something that seems foreign to yourself. And one of those is song and dance. And song can actually put your mind at a different frequency than it's normally at. So when the five of you are grooving together and really writing, you tap into higher levels of self that you're not normally operating at, whether that's the etheric realm, whether that's the astral realm or the mental realm, you know, beyond just our subtle bodies. And when you tap into that, sometimes you can actually open that bridge to let through creativity, and that's where sometimes people all of a sudden just pound out an entire song in 15 minutes writing down lyrics, and you look at it and you're like, this is the best shit that I ever wrote. Where did that even come from? It's because there is an endless supply of that if you know how to tap into it. It's just being able to tap into it, and one of the ways is, you know, when you're really feeling that ecstaticness, the smiles that I seen on you guys' face when you talked about your upcoming project. That's it. Whenever you feel that way about it and you guys are in a room together, it opens that doorway. So not to get too spiritual on anybody out there, as most of you know with my other shows, I certainly talk heavily into some of that content. I love that you said that. It just comes from out of nowhere, because it certainly actually does.
Yeah, I mean, we had a moment this past weekend where we were working on a song and we started talking more about like, what should we do, and, you know, like, how should we go? And that's when we're like, you know what, it's time to stop for today, because, you know, if the juices ain't flowing, you know, we're not going to force them out. You know?
You can't force them. I mean, if you know you're tapped, then let it be tapped and call it a night. Because like you said, if you try to force it, you end up putting something into place. You guys all agree on it, and then 6 months later, it's already recorded. And then you guys all start really sharing how you feel, and you're like, I hate that fucking part in that song. Oh, so do we. And it's too late. It's already on the track, and don't ever put something that's less than what you guys want to be. Now, I have a question for you as a trend that I see a lot of bands doing, and I don't believe you guys do that, but if I'm wrong, please, you know, feel free to jump in and smack me for it. I'm starting to see bands go, sounds weird saying, I'm starting to see bands go, you know, ampless and, you know, not really having the right settings. So like, for example, you go see a band, there is no amps behind them. It's direct plug-in. There's no soundboards. There's no nothing. I'm seeing people play electronic drums. There's no double basses. There's no nothing. I feel like I'm watching almost like, the video game Rock Band or whatever. I feel like I'm watching that on stage, but there's music coming at me. And I've been seeing it a lot more, and a lot of bands are like, this is the way of the future. And I'm like, I am a full stack fucking, I like an amp behind me. I want to feel the rhythm of my amp kicking me. So what are your guys' thoughts? And I would like to hear a little bit from all of you. I mean, because all of you are going to have different perspectives on that. But I have been seeing an overwhelming amount of bands saying that the way of the future is getting rid of half stacks and full stacks and having to carry racks of drums and all of these things and being simplified. I mean, do you see that ever really coming as a whole?
Not for this band, no.
I think we kind of pride ourselves on kind of like a raw, brutal sound and tone, and you only really get that by really dialing in your sound from your amp, your drum kit. I bring a massive bass stack with me everywhere, and you do have the sound from the DI, but what those subwoofers that I bring, you can almost like feel it in your body.
Yes.
And same thing with the drums, same things with the guitars. Like, no, I don't think we're ever going to go that route. And that kind of what sets us apart a little bit is that we're always just going to bring that raw, brutal sound to every show. And on top of that, bring the energy as well.
I mean, Dylan, how about yourself? I mean, could you ever see yourself playing a fully electronic kit, small drums, five drums? You don't need anything because you can just reach over and press a button on a pad and it just changes the sound. You don't ever really need anything more than a couple things in front of you?
Not as like a whole kit, but I do really like the hybrid kits that you see, like drummers like Neil Peart and Danny Carey. I do like that blend of technology with the acoustic side as well. But I mean, as far as going into all the DIs and stuff, I mean, I'm almost just curious as like what's the age range of the people who are saying that this is the future.
A lot of them are younger than us. And I mean, that's what's interesting is it scares me because I come from a time period where, same as you guys, but I mean, whenever we used to come out on stage, we carried out an entire, rack for the drums. I mean, it was a fucking pain in the dick setting up this giant rack. And then we brought out full stacks. And then, I mean, we had setting up for a half an hour, heavily before we even went on stage, and then when it was our time to come on stage, we rushed it all on. So we were very efficient of the changeover between bands, but it was a lot of carrying. And then, like I said, we started meeting people along the way that are just like, why do you do all that, man? And they're like, why don't you just do this, and this, and you won't even have to spend any time on that. And I'm like, I love the fact that it's a pain in the dick carrying my half stack up 3 fucking flights of stairs. And I feel like I might drop it on me and kill me before I even go on stage. I want that feeling. I don't want to just walk out there and plug into nothing. And it's just, it's about the experience, you know what I mean? And that's the problem. And there's a few different bands I know of that actually are pretty big right now doing this live. And it is very strange to me to stand in the crowd and look at a stage with a drum set and then nothing else. Literally no amps, no nothing, just 2 guys standing with a guitar or 3 and a vocalist, and then you have a small little drum set in the back, and the stage looks empty. It looks bare, and it's almost crying out saying, like, where the fuck are the amps and the instruments that's supposed to be on me? And I've seen this, and like I said, I started asking a lot of younger musicians, why? And they're saying, well, this is the way of the future. And it almost makes me wonder, well, have you ever really played old school then? Have you ever owned a half stack? Have you ever pulled out a PV, 6505 and plugged in? Have you ever pulled out a Madison amp and really felt, as, Phillip was saying, the fucking pounding behind you, when you feel that coming from your amp, there's no DI that's going to give you that.
Well, I'll kind of give you my 2 cents on it. And I've tried almost everything. I've tried Axe effects. I've tried all, the different modelers, and plugins as far as like recording software, like Neural DSP, all the stuff. Like I've tried it all, and some of it is really great. And like amp modeling technology has come a long way since, you know, the little Line 6 Spider amps that first, you know, broke on the scene that everybody had. But that being said, what I'm seeing a lot of is that people are you know, like back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, before all this stuff was available, everybody had like a unique tone, if that makes any sense. Like you could hear one note of, you know, Eddie Van Halen and know like this is Van Halen, or you'd hear one note and you're like, oh, that's Black Sabbath, or whatever it was at the time. Everybody had a unique sound. Now, I think that people are striving almost like perfection as far as like sonic perfection, and that's kind of a battle that I don't know if I'm really about facing. You know what I mean? Like you can get an Axe effects and you can literally tweak, you know, every parameter. You can switch out the tubes in your virtual amp. You can adjust frequencies, EQ things until they're not able to be EQ'd anymore, and you have this so-called perfect sound. But just because it's perfect doesn't necessarily mean it's better. You know what I mean? I almost like, you know, for me, the best setup is the setup that I can, when I have an idea, I can go play and just record, you know, and that for me is just a tube amp that's set to the settings that I have kind of prefer over the years. You know what I mean? And even live, it's easy. You know, when things break on a tube amp, there's not that many things that, you know, it could be the tubes, it could be a bum cable, whatever, but like really it's a lot more straightforward, and you spend a lot more time focusing on actually playing music rather than fiddling with gear and tones and all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's people out there that love to fiddle and fine tune and do all that stuff, but I'd rather play music. And honestly, playing through a tube amp, getting that shit loud, doesn't get any better than that. So
I love that you said that. Two things that you said there is I would personally myself rather focus on playing than I was never, you know, the engineer type. If I wanted to be an engineer, I'd be an engineer. I wouldn't be a guitarist. And I made a mistake years ago and bought turntables. For some reason, I had this kick where I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I went out and spent a shit ton of money and bought, you know, a really nice set of turntables. Well, it was about day 4 when I realized that it was just never going to happen, because the amount of buttons and frequencies and changing, I'm like, why the fuck would I ever do this? Because this is not who I am. I'm a musician. I'm not an engineer. So as you said, I mean, I would rather focus on that than focusing on having to tone 500 knobs to give me a certain sound. Now, you brought up a very good point, Ben, because we have moved into an age where that is the case. It's not necessarily about just having badass music. It's about having that digital sound. It's about having these effects on the music that sound so crisp. And that's great, but sometimes being crisp actually takes away from the quality of music. Because once upon a time when you're listening to Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Van Halen, you had these unique tones, you had these unique sounds that you loved. It made you feel something. Now you can pick 20 different bands and play them, and there's a good chance that those 20 bands sound pretty damn similar to one another. And what they're striving for isn't being individual and unique. It's about just having the crispiest sound. And I think with that, you lose something. I 100% agree with that, so I'm glad you said that.
So, you know, like some of my favorite records growing up, you know, like At the Gates, Slaughter the Soul, or even like Lamb of God's New American Gospel. They sound like garbage, dude. But you know what makes them good is the riffs and the music that's actually, you know, coming through, and you really feel like, yeah, you like they were good musicians and they wrote great songs. And it doesn't matter that they didn't have any money to fucking, you know, have the best quality recording. You know, now anybody can make a really amazing sounding record in their bedroom for free, but you know, does that necessarily make it good? You know, it's debatable.
That's it. At the Gates was amazing. I mean, like you said, their quality wasn't great, but man, as far as a band and guitar riffs, oh fuck, man, my youth was spent listening to At the Gates. I loved them. Yeah,
and then they went on stage and they played it that way. You know what I mean? Without backing tracks and all this stuff. So I mean, you know, it's you know, I'm not saying like that, you know, all the things that are at people's disposal are bad. I think it's great. I think people should evolve and, you know, adapt and try new things. But
it's made it easier for people to get music out.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, sure, and yeah, now there's a lot of music out there, and I think it exposes. I think there's a lot of it that's bad, but I think there's also a lot of it that's good. And I think without, you know, the advances of technology, recording technology, and things along those lines, you know, there would have been people that would have been limited to whether or not they had access to a label or just a stupid amount of money to be able to just, you know, think about back in the 70s of like, if someone who's not making it in music, but they just really love playing music, you know, I mean, they're not going to drop however much money it would have costed to create a record at that time, you know, just to be able to say that I did it. But now they can, and they can put it on YouTube. And I think there are some people, there's some artists out there that are actually able to really get a lot of good recognition from that. But, you know, of course, you still got to shift through all, you know, the filth. So, but I mean, I think it's great as far as like the new technology. And even going back to the whole DI stuff, I mean, if that's like the way of the future, I kind of like, I'd want to almost ask those same questions of like, well, why is this, you know, the way of the future? Is it just truly like you don't want to load stuff up? And as a drummer, I completely understand not wanting to do that, because that stuff sucks, especially when you're on, and for everyone, all of us, you know, when you're on the road all the time. Loading and unloading sucks, and that's like the worst part of it, you know. But so that would be what I'm interested in, is like, if that's the way of the future, I mean, I kind of totally get that. But, I mean, like what Ben was saying, that's not the future for WoR. That's for sure. You know, we're always going to big old cabs, and I'm looking into bigger drums, so there you go.
You're not downsizing, you're increasing. Here's the thing. I want to get a little bit nostalgic for a moment. Is, you know, loading your equipment sucks. Yes, loading and unloading. But you know what? The thing I will say is, once it's gone, I can say this myself. I played for years and years in a band every weekend, all weekend long, 3 to 4 practices a week for a decade. And then I walked away from it and pursued a hip-hop career. And it was great at first. It was, you know, I don't have to carry shit. I bring out my own mic, I plug in, I'm done. I have a USB drive I plug in, or I might have a DJ with me that brings the, you know, the shit with him. I don't have to do nothing. And for a long time, I liked it. And then it started to seep into me that I missed those moments. As I said earlier, I missed carrying that half stack up those stairs with my brothers and us being like, holy fuck, how are we going to get up here? I missed loading the truck in a shady ass town at 2:30 in the morning after a show and cars going by, and you're like, they're going to come back and kill us and steal our shit. I miss that. And that sounds crazy to most people. And they're like, why would you ever miss it? Because I miss the experiences. I miss the fact of being with my brothers and being in a town somewhere across the country and having those moments, because once you cut those ties and it's just you as a solo artist, or you just don't do music anymore, you think back about all the things that were shitty, and you actually realize they were part of the journey. And they're going to miss out on that. These fucking teeny boppers now that are like, I carry out a 2-string guitar and fucking, you know, press buttons in the bottom of my guitar that make up the other 4 strings. I don't know what they're doing these days, but you're missing the experience of all of the rest of it, and they're never going to know what they're even missing.
You know, it is what it is, man. But, you know, I mean,
it was just them years down the road. Like, you know, oh, what were your struggles? You know, it's like, well, I had to figure out how to
pedal board up there,
download all this software. There's the first few had a bunch of viruses on them. My parents were pissed. They had to buy me 3 new computers.
That's it. Yeah, I kept frying my computers, and a couple times live on stage, porn sounds started coming out of my guitar. I don't know what the fuck happened. I had some type of virus. I don't know what was happening.
We were definitely not watching porn.
Yeah, I never heard those sounds before.
Oh, you had LimeWire too?
Oh shit, LimeWire. Yeah, that was always a good time. I used to just I'm not incriminating myself. I knew a guy that used to just type in keywords and just download everything there possibly was to mankind. It wasn't me though. It's just a guy I knew.
Yeah. It's a guy we all knew.
Guy we all knew.
Hey, loading all that gear is a good workout, When you're on the road, you can't hit the gyms, and hell, man, sometimes loading the gear is the only workout you get during the day.
This fan, we're definitely going to try and hit the gyms.
we stay in shape on the road, baby.
Well, and I think a thing that Phil, I think a thing you just said is
drink.
important is I think that as a way of flexing too. If you take pride in your gear and you have nice gear, it's a way that you can kind of stunt to everybody. Whenever we would walk out with these beautiful half stacks or full stack tube amps with full rack mounts on top of them, and we would have neon lights inside them and they would glow, and we would have the canvases that went on the front custom made for the bands, and we came out with this gear that when we set up, we might have been a band that you didn't really know about in your town, and we might have been the opener for a bigger show, but when we came out, people were like, who the fuck are these guys? They wanted to know because they're like, look at these dudes' gear. These guys have $100,000 in gear on stage, and they're nobodies because we took pride in what we had. Now I watch them walk on stage, 2 guitars, and like I said, an electronic drum set, which isn't, you can have really nice electronic drum sets, don't get me wrong. They're actually making ones right now that are phenomenal. It's just like it's missing something. Like I don't stand there and say, "Wow, man, who are these guys?" I'm like, It's the same words. It's a different meaning. Who the fuck are these guys? It's a completely different notion behind it. And like I said, it might be the way of the future. We'll see, but certainly not for you guys. And I'm glad to hear that. So.
Yeah.
I think it's just basically it's all the gear nerds getting mad. They're like, why don't they have any gear on stage? There's nothing for me to look at.
That's me, man. That's all it is. I'm like, where the fuck are their half stacks at? Right. No, I'm gonna fire 2 more questions out at you guys, and then we're gonna jump into the last song and finish it out for the evening. And I like one's kind of a morbid question. The other one's just a question I ask every guest that's a musician on the show. And I probably asked you guys before, but we'll jump quickly between the 2 questions between the 4 of you. The first question is, if you had all the time back in the world from, practicing, shows, rehearsing, studio, every moment that you've ever put into music, had it all back right now, poof, I just granted you your wish. What is the one other thing, if you had to put it into, that you would put it into? All of those hours over the years. And we'll start, Phil, I'm going to start with you.
Wow, I've never been asked that question. Never really thought about it. I'd probably become a professional wrestler, though.
Okay.
Spare time, yeah.
That's what's up. No,
and I'd be good at it, and I'd be the best wrestler in the world.
He's like, I'm not just going to do it, goddammit. I'm going to be the best.
And you know it.
You know it.
I like that. No, that's what's up, man. I appreciate that.
Honestly, it's just, I've never had that thought before, but that's the only thing I can think of, yeah.
Now we're going with that. So Phil's going to be a professional wrestler, and Dylan, what would you pick?
Oh man, I was already talking about being a mechanic and cooking and everything, but I don't even know if I'd want to go down that road. I don't know. Dude, I don't know, like neuro. Psychologist or something.
Oh shit, he's going smart with it. He's like, I'm fucking going, into nerves, and I'm gonna make bank.
Oh yeah, the brain is a very interesting thing. So.
Okay, so we got wrestler, we got neuro psychiatrist or neurosurgeon, something in the neuro field. Bobby, what are we going after?
Probably public speaking, man. I mean, I would
motivational speaking.
Real, like, what I'm saying? Like, I read a lot of, these self-help books, what I'm saying? I wish that, I could touch a lot more people. I wish I could change lives. The way that, people, I hear people speaking, the way that I hear people who touch me, when they speak, they have that power just to be able to, talk and be able to grasp a large amount of people and change their lives for the better. I feel like I wish I could have dived more into being more confident in myself.
No, that's a good thing, man. I've always liked speaking in front of people myself, to be honest with you. I've taught people over the years in a completely different sense, but as I said, I'm very into spirituality, and I've been a long-time occultist, and I've taught hundreds of students over the years about how to take where they're at in life and be able to kind of change that around and find the inner strength in themselves. So I completely get that. To be able to talk to someone and help them get back on the right track for themselves is an important thing.
because we're a student of the universe regardless, you know what I'm saying? So no matter what, even as a teacher, you're still a student.
Yes.
So you're constantly learning. So, I mean, you and I got a lot in common. I mean, like, so it's just like, it's just like you're constantly, like, I wish I could have learned more. I wish I could like be able to teach more. And, you know, I'm still here learning. I wish I could learn more, be able to teach more and like do all that thing. And and as an artist, I'm still doing that. And I wish I could have just done it more as a younger being. Like, I took it for granted.
No, I hear you, man. But hey, you still got time left. Do what you can with the time you got. Now, Ben, where are we going with it? We got public speaker. We got neurobiologist, super scientist. We have a professional wrestler. Ben, where are we going with this?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I've lived like 9 lives already, you know, like I had a whole football career and did all that shit. You know, I could probably go into coaching football because I have, you know, just a wealth of knowledge on it that, you know, is now not being utilized anymore. But, you know, truly at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. And I would probably pour all that back into music. So, even through all the bullshit, all the good times, all the bad times, like, you know, this has been worth it so far. So, and even if it fucking fails and goes belly up in 5 years, whatever, man, you know.
It's all about the fun. Like I said, it's all about the experiences, man.
So, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I probably wouldn't change anything. So
now,
question.
So I have one more question. It's a little fucking morbid. And then after that, we're going to run through this quick. And then I want you guys to tell me any links or anything you want the fans out there to check out or any news. And then we'll just drop into the last song and let it fade out for the evening. And that'll be the end of the interview. But, this question is something that it really gets into the psychology of someone's mind. And the question would be, if this was your last moment in life right now and you could be surrounded by your loved ones, you get to spend those last moments of life with your family or whoever it is that's important to you, but you have one of two choices. You can either hold them close, but you are not allowed to write anything down or say any words to them. So there is no verbal communication to them, only simply touch. And that's how it all ends. Or you have the opportunity to say to them anything that you want to say to them before you go, but you're separated by a barrier and you can't touch your loved ones again before you go. So the options are you get to be with them, you get to hold them, but tell them nothing of how you feel, or tell them everything of how you feel, but never get to hold them again. And there's reasons I ask that, because it digs into the inner psychology of someone's mind, and I just want to hear what you guys would pick if you had to pick one. So let's go opposite order. We're going to start with Ben and go the opposite way, and then after we're done, we'll hear the links that you guys want us to check out, play your last song, and that'll be it.
So it's actually, this is funny because me and Dylan were talking about like the 5 senses and like which sense you would get rid of if you had to get rid of one, right? And I don't know, I don't remember what we said, but you know, for me, like touch is like, I don't know, like feel. I don't know. I wouldn't get rid of that. So I would probably do the feeling thing.
Play guitar, Ben.
Huh? How would I play guitar without feel? You couldn't play guitar without feel, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I would do the feeling thing because, you know, I mean, we say shit all the time, you know. We're talking on social media, but a lot of that shit doesn't mean stuff. So probably the silence. Silence is underrated.
It is. I agree to that. In a lot of ways, it certainly is.
Yeah. So definitely the silence. Silence, but, you know, you can be in the same place with them. So
yes. Bobby?
There it is. Stumped him.
I would love to, like, you know, be there and like be able to touch and just say whatever, blah blah blah, but tell me to be quiet, dude. Like, I mean, I would want to tell you how much I love you, how much, you know, and just everything and all my regrets, everything like that. I wish that I could have done more. And just like repent for all that. That will probably be me. Even though I would love to be there to touch you and hold you, and everything, action speaks louder than words. But my word is my bond, and words is all I have.
And see, that's why I like that, because there's two different, very valid reasons to why you would want to do that, and there's two different type of mindsets, and that's what this question digs into. So I love that. Phil, what about you?
I kind of live in the moment, and certain times it would depend. Like, there are times where I feel comfortable, where everybody knows how much I love them, and I would want to tell them something and give them some advice. But at this point in my life, the way things are going, I feel like everyone would need that touch and that hug and that embrace, just because, sometimes things aren't all that great, and they just need that. But if things are hunky-dory, I would give the advice. But at this point in my life, I would give the hugs for sure.
Okay. No, makes sense.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And Dylan, how about you, sir?
Hugs.
He's giving nothing but hugs. He don't even care about the words. It's just hugs for everybody.
Because at the end of the day, even if there was something to say, I think anyone who's ever had a situation where, they've had to really get something off of their chest, at the end of it, you just want to have that contact with someone, that embrace or whatever, good or bad, with that person or just from someone else, there's still that want for that contact at the end of it all. So I really think that is more about the energy. So, definitely gonna go with just hugging.
Lots of hugging and loves.
As long as the mood is right and energy is right, and that's all that needs to be done.
No, I like it. Well, thank you guys for your truthful answers on the last two questions, and thank you for all of the information and fun conversation this evening, and for coming back on the show. Now, before we jump to the last song and fade out for the evening, if you guys could tell us any news that you want us to know. I know there's some things dropping tomorrow, so folks, make sure you check out their announcements tomorrow of the upcoming tour. Make sure you're watching out for the second album to come out. But anything else that we haven't heard about, or anything we should just keep on our radar coming up, and anywhere we can check you out at. And then we'll jump into our last song this evening, which will be Caged.
Yeah, of course. Check out our website, warband.com. Check us out on all streaming platforms. We're damn near anywhere you can find us. We're selling our merch right now. Got our shop. Spotify, YouTube, even Twitter and Facebook, all that, just WOR, it's spell it out, look us up. We're going to be everywhere. We got announcements coming up that you don't even know about. Incarceration, we got the
Death Vest.
So much shit going on. I'm saying it's
way too much shit.
It's just so much going on. Check us out, man. Look us up, and we got so much coming y'all way. It's gonna be a great year, and hope everybody's good. Hope everybody's safe. You know what I'm saying? With everything that's going on, fuck all that. But just stay updated.
If we're in a city
podcast.
If we're in a city near you, come check that show out. Come throw down with us. You won't regret it. I promise.
Yep.
Unless you break a leg, then you might regret it. But people have broken legs in our pits, and they've been like, "That shit was awesome. I would do it again."
It's all about the memories, man. Just like I said, it's all about those memories.
Yeah.
And all our announcements typically are on Instagram and Facebook. I think it's WoR Band Official, but you'll find it if you just search WoR. We're pretty easy to find. It's pretty obvious that it's us.
And that's WOR for those listening, not WAR.
You heard it, folks. Well, make sure you check them out. Pick up their past album. Watch out for the new one. Keep an eye in a city near you. If they come through, please go check them out. Go check out Incarceration if you're in the eastern side of the United States, and even if you're not. But I mean, if you're over here, it's in Ohio. It's going to be a great time. 3 great days of music. It's a much needed healing festival for everyone out there that's been just fiending for a festival, myself included. And other than that, just support great bands and great people. We hope you enjoyed the interview this evening and hanging out with us. And, make sure you tune into the past episodes of Uncovering the Underground, upcoming episodes of, Uncovering the Underground. Next week is Dementia's Creed, another metal band, very unique. They have a heavy occult feel to them, and that's actually how I came across them. As I seen their artwork, and I was like, I got to check these dudes out. A lot of times you see badass artwork, and then you check out the band, and it might not live up to the artwork. These guys did, and I'm very excited to get to interview them as well. So stick around next week, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Drop emails at celestialaddities@gmail.com of anything you like, don't like, or would like to see us do or bring onto the show. And other than that, share the episode around, check these guys out, and we want to thank you one last time, fellas, before we jump into the song, for coming on this evening, and much love to you, and be safe on your upcoming travels.
Oh yeah,
Thank
man.
you so much.
Take some motherfucking.
Absolutely. You heard it, folks. Much love to these guys. And before we finish up for the evening, this is our last song of the night. This is Caged by WoR. Check it out on Uncovering the Underground.
This time, I would like to show you true power. But you won't understand.